In Sichuan province of China and the surrounding areas, the rain initially began as soft, steady drops falling on the tin roofs of rural homes. But within a few short hours, the peaceful sky turned into a roaring beast. For 14 relentless hours, the skies unleashed their fury. Swelling rivers until a dam built decades ago to regulate the waters could no longer withstand the pressure and burst open. A massive flood surged down like a vengeful tide, swallowing villages, roads, and memories. Over 6,000 residents were forced to flee, their possessions turned into debris floating in the murky currents. In the rugged terrain of Xiaozhong, the situation was no less dire. Another 7,000 people fled as floodwaters, driven by relentless rain, carved new paths through the land. Entire green hillsides disappeared in moments, with soil and rocks sliding down to bury fields and block roads. The elderly were carried on the backs of neighbors, while children clung to their parents, their eyes wide with fear and their voices silent. The air was thick with the scent of wet earth, sweat, and desperation as communities that had stood for generations watched their foundations crumble. In the Tibetan highlands, where the air is thin and rivers flow swiftly, the disaster took on a different hue. The Yarlung Tsangpo River swelled beyond its banks, bursting forth with a ferocity that felt almost personal. Villages perched precariously on steep slopes were no match for the onslaught. Over 300 villagers raced to safety, their footsteps echoing on the rocky earth as they fled the wrath of the river. Homes built with care, passed down through generations, were reduced to rubble in minutes. The mountains, usually a source of solace and strength, stood indifferent as the waters claimed all in their path. The Ministry of Emergency Management of China, headquartered in Beijing, issued a grim report. In just the first half of the year, floods across the country caused staggering economic losses totaling 54 billion yuan, roughly $7.6 billion US. These numbers, cold and clinical, reflected the painful reality. Roads, the lifeblood of rural life, were submerged under torrents of water, and over 2.19 million hectares of fertile land turned into useless wastelands. 307 people were confirmed dead or missing, leaving families broken, lost in grief with no words to comfort them. But what was lost wasn't just homes or crops. It was dreams, years of hard labor, and the hope of farmers. In Sichuan, Gansu, and Liaoning, they had planted hope alongside their crops, nurturing rice paddies and wheat fields with sweat and patience. Now, all that hope lay shattered, submerged beneath the murky waters that refused to recede. The heartache rippled through tight-knit communities where neighbors became lifelines and shared grief bound them closer. Families stood on the edges of their ruined fields, their calloused hands empty of purpose, staring at the devastation before them. In Sichuan, rescue teams waded through chest-deep water to pull families from collapsing homes. In Gansu, where the lowest hills are prone to crumbling, landslides buried roads and trapped villagers in remote hamlets. In Liaoning, rivers swelled beyond their banks, turning quiet towns into islands surrounded by churning waters. Thousands were rescued, pulled from rooftops or airlifted from precarious slopes. Their lives spared, but their futures uncertain. Meteorologists from the World Meteorological Organization, WMO, had been sounding alarms for years. Asia is warming at twice the global average, leading to a cycle of escalating extreme weather events. Hotter air holds more moisture, causing rain to become heavier, more unpredictable, and more intense than ever before. Floods, once rare, have become a recurring nightmare. striking with increasing frequency and ferocity. In response, the Chinese government has mobilized the entire nation. Billions of yuan have been allocated for infrastructure rebuilding, with funds focused on the hardest-hit regions. Engineers have descended on Sichuan and Xiaozhong to reinforce embankments, riverbanks, and dams. Aid trucks have rolled into rural counties, bringing food, blankets, and medical supplies. Agricultural brigades have distributed seeds, fertilizers, and tools to farmers whose livelihoods have been washed away. However, alongside the relief efforts, a lingering unease spreads throughout the nation. The latest reports from WMO warn that the months ahead hold even greater risks. Summer, still in its early stages, promises more rain, more floods, and more destruction. People in Sichuan, Gansu, and across western China look up at the dark skies, their hearts filled with anxiety. Will the levees hold? Will the rains return more ferocious than before? But amidst the wreckage and the mud, something else has taken root: resilience. In Sichuan, farmers return to their fields, determined to replant the first seeds. In Xiaozhong, neighbors come together, clearing debris and rebuilding homes brick by brick. In Tibet's highlands, stories of survival spread, becoming a beacon of hope that warms the hearts of all. The human spirit, battered but unbroken, continues to rise in the wake of nature's fury. People are not only restoring their fields and homes, but also rebuilding their faith, unity, and will to endure. The floods may have taken much, but they could not take the fierce will to survive. From the misty hills of Sichuan to the wind-swept plains of Gansu, people stand tall, their faces turned toward the future. They plant new seeds, both literal and metaphorical, trusting that from the devastation, something stronger, something lasting, will grow. For while the rains will come again, the rivers will rise once more. The people too will rise again, standing firm against the challenges that lie ahead. This is the unchanging truth in the cycle of nature, the will to survive, to unite.
Thank you for taking the time to watch this video. Natural disasters are not just numbers or fleeting image, but real pains and losses that affect millions of people around the world. We hope that through this content, we can foster more empathy, greater awareness, and encourage all of us to take actions, even in small ways, to protect the environment, reduce risk, and support those who are most severely affected by the natural impact. If you find this message valuable, please don't forget to share this to spread the spirit to solidarity. Once again, our deepest gratitude, and we will see you in the next video.